We're obviously going through just an unprecedented time, personally, as a country, as a world. And it's easy to lose sight of other important things like Bristol Bay in particular. And I thought that this might be a good way to start checking in on these fronts.
None of the songs that I'm playing tonight are songs that I've written, but I feel like they're really relevant to what we love, what we're working to protect. And they tie to Bristol Bay in one way or another.
I am a fisheries biologist in Alaska.
I'm Dave. I teach geomorphology at the University of Washington, and I get into all kinds of other trouble too.
I'm Lindsay, and I live in Dillingham. I'm a commercial fisherman. I work for, most of you probably know, I work for an organization called United Tribes of Bristol Bay.
I started fishing Bristol Bay in 1979.
I grew up in Homer, Alaska, and my parents were set netters on the Gashik River in Pilot Point.
Strength of the Tides is a community organization that works to support, celebrate, and empower women who work on the water.
Vision Maker is all about empowering natives to share their own story to public television.
When I first started working on this in 2003, I asked Northern Dynasty if they were going to do salmon surveys up there, and they said, in those little streams, nah.
If you look at the sort of really bullet synopsized history of salmon in different parts of the world, we'd sort of gradually chipped away at their habitat, blocked them from access to their streams, degraded their habitat to the point where we wonder, did New England really used to have salmon as abundant as the Pacific Northwest?
The Army Corps' insistence that they're not going to take any measures to hit pause, even though our people can't meaningfully engage right now. So that's pretty concerning.
It's not necessarily that Bristol Bay's special, it's just that we haven't made the same mistakes as the rest of the world yet.
Our timeline is running out with the final EIS being issued. Any activity that's going to happen, if our current court case doesn't move forward the way that we want it to, anything that's going to happen is going to happen before a new administration takes place.
What cry?
When I was a child, my family would travel out to Bristol Bay where the salmon are born.
I like to think that it's the salmon, that have brought us together. And while many of us may or may not know each other here tonight, we might leave here with stronger connections to each other, to the fish, to where the fish live, and to the people who live with them. So I always like to give thanks to the salmon for helping us make these connections.
Two of the poems tonight are from this, which is my journal, so pretty unedited, but seeing the audience here tonight, I just felt like I could be vulnerable with you guys and make a couple mistakes.
That song, it's super intense to play because it to me, it's like the death of one of the rivers in Bristol Bay by tailings impoundment breach.
I want to raise my babies on salmon so they always know where home is. I want to raise my babies on a boat so they are not surprised when life is unsteady. I want to raise them knowing that 5/8 and 15 millimeter are the same thing so that they know how to speak more than one language. No two names can mean the same thing. I want them to watch the king salmon die, pooled in his own blood, so that they know what we do is not right, but it is normalized. Wealth and privilege are built on the shiver of unfairness.
If you can't tell already, salmon evoke something in the heart, and I think that's what's bringing us all together here.
I feel like there's a fish fire that's sort of radiating outward from me.
It's hard to put into words, and I'm a writer and I'm supposed to be able to do that.
I want my babies to wade into water so they understand we are dependent on diesel and thermal layers for survival. We have no blubber. Our eyes grow cloudy in the mud.
And I say to Terry, with such plentiful resources in your homeland, it's easy to see how your ancestors thrived. Resources? Terry says to me. Mountain goats and trees aren't resources. We have relationships with the goat and the tree.
We are capable of change when we have to be, when we're in crisis mode.
The film was able to open a door for a conversation to take place.
And he sat down next to me and we were stuck in the choir loft in the back. And it was one of the nicest things he ever said to me as he kind of scooched in real quiet and says, "So how does it feel to be the one who made this happen?" And until then, at the recording, I hadn't cried.
Because of course, as a composer, your goal is to write a piece that tells the story without needing any other dimension.
And at the end of their lives, they pass something on to the next generation, not unlike us. In between the beginning and end of our lives, a lot can happen. And what do we pass on? Can salmon teach us something about ourselves?
I now live in a place that once was rich with salmon, where you could walk across their backs, and that has gone.
I've had the good fortune of lots of travel all over the US and outside the US. There's just no end of wonderful stories here.
I haven't seen the film in a few years myself. It came out in 2016, so it's about 4 years old now. And knowing what we know now about the Elwha, I mean, Dick Owen was right. And it's an incredible story of what can happen when you pay attention to things like he did.
It moved me to tears, the beauty of the humble stick-to-itiveness of this very Olympic Peninsula man. And I loved his love for the fish and for the place.
And then I wired up a cassette deck to it, and then we digitalized it, 15 years later, and that's the story. And Dick was so happy. I mean, he was just ecstatic to have that piece of history back because he was a central player in it. And in many ways, it's a recording of what happened.
I live under the delusion that there will always be food, even though I am not growing, fishing, hunting, or even really storing much of it. Shelley lives under no such pretense. Who is the wiser? Who is rich? What is wealth?
Our collective testimony is how long these things can take and how hard they can be. But when you can get them done, when you don't give up, you can make some pretty remarkable change.
When those guys start coming back, I think you're going to see the population flip.
When Jen invited me to go out and we went out there, I think it was October. Isn't that right, Jen? I think it was October. And it was cold.
Yes, it was very cold.
And
the river was roaring and it was cold.
Yeah, we saw all those elk. Do you remember that? We saw all those elk right below.
Trampled. We were shooting in the river. We almost got trampled by elk.
A struggle I've always had with the types of projects that I'm drawn to is there are almost always moments where you wonder, is the responsible thing to keep on filming, or do you put the camera down and help? Because sometimes the need to help somebody overrides the need to tell the story.
I actually, as a mother, felt an affinity to Sam as I would to a son in a way, watching him stumble and find his way and blossom.
I used Forget-Me-Not as a way to ignore the things that were going on in my personal life.
I have felt doors slammed so hard books fell off the shelves at the setnet cabin. I've seen wrenches fly. I've heard deckhands chewed out from a quarter-mile away. I've stomped and kicked until my feet are sore. My own engine holds dents from my own lack of emotional control. We are not taught as young deckhands to take deep breaths or talk things out. We learn to puff our chests. We learn to hold our ground, chin up even when your head's down. As a people, we are proud. In a world of limited entry permits and limited resources, it's no wonder we learn to cork or be corked, to fight even when there is no one to fight with, to take sides, dig our heels in, feel angry. But now is not a time for that. I have seen a whole boatyard put their heads together to lift an engine into a hole. I've seen a beach of set netters pull a cabin all the way across the tundra, witnessed unbound patience in the engine room, watched a fisherman drive away from a huge set to help a stranger with a deckhand in the water. We are so much more than dented engines. We are so much more than flying spit.
My life and my problems was this 60-inch TV playing, right? And then Forget Me Not, like helping people out, was like this 42-inch TV that I put in front of mine. And I just completely ignored what was going on in my life, you know? And I just watched what was going on with what people needed. People do that and they end up burning out. It's good to like tend to some of the stuff that you're dealing with rather than using work to ignore them.
My elders have always said, you know, you have to go get your education and do well for yourself, but you come back and help your people. And it's always been the we, not the I.
Salmon are a gift. I heard that over and over again from Alaskans. And when you're on the receiving end of a gift, you give thanks and you give back. It's the salmon way.
I towel off and throw my big sweatshirt on, sighing away my sore shoulders and the weight that comes with simply standing at the edge of one of the world's wildest, fullest food sources.
Whatever comes out of this, our resource will remain strong.
What you need is a tribe, small T. You need a tribe of people who love this river and care about those fish, and it's really going to take everybody.
If you have ever stood on a salmon spawning stream and just watched the fish and just it's nothing but like determination, and I am absolutely convinced that the phrase "the will to live" was coined by somebody that was standing on a salmon spawning stream.
You're all warriors, and you're all the voice for a region that doesn't have a voice. So thank you.
In this time of this pause in the world, we're going to learn some pretty amazing things about ourselves and this planet, and it's going to be one of those pivotal moments of before and after.
My baby drinks water, my baby drinks tea. My baby eats salmon from the Bristol Bay streams. My baby drinks milk Mother Nature gave me. So please spare the water for my little ones and me.